Okay, hi. I would like to introduce our very special guest. I heard about her because I'm in the same industry that Shruti was in, and um, so many of my friends, when I heard that they heard that she had had a stroke, and they knew that I had had a stroke, they're like, "You need to meet this girl. You guys will get along. We'll get along so well." And in meeting Shruti, I have found her story fascinating, and she's just a lovely person. And I'm super excited to introduce you to her today. So, Shruti, take it away.
Thanks, Julie. I
Yeah.
know I can't believe we haven't met in person yet. That's
Yes.
absolutely bonkers to me. But I'm looking forward to making that happen at some point, as I'm sure it will. And thank you all for having me. I'm really very excited, especially because what I wanted to talk about today is resilience and purpose. And having this conversation tonight has definitely given me purpose throughout the day. So, just to kind of like prepare a little bit about what I wanted to talk about and what I wanted to share. And I think that this community is so amazing and so generous and has taught me so much. So, first off, thank you for that. Um, and I thought I would start by I'm just going to link a little YouTube video in the chat just because getting into my whole story sometimes gets me a bit emotional. So I just thought I would send this link and then it's a bit more descriptive. And basically, I was at Toronto Western Hospital when I had my stroke, and I was basically treated at a bunch of United Health Network hospitals. So they had asked me if it would be okay for them to share my story at a fundraiser, and I said absolutely. So they made this really nice video, and it makes me look like a really nice person, a lot nicer than I actually am. But I thought I would share it just to kind of like give you all a sense of what my story is. So I sent it in the chat. So if you would like to have a look at that, I would encourage you to do so. But basically, just the Coles Notes version of my story is I suffered a massive brain hemorrhage a week before the pandemic happened. So my timing was excellent. And I was rushed to the hospital. I got there, I think, something like 7 minutes. It was amazing. I happened to be living in the annex in Toronto at the time, which was very close to Toronto Western Hospital, which is the best hospital in Canada, dare I say, the world, for brain injury. So I was rushed to that hospital, and the minute I was got there, they threw me into an MRI, gently, I'm sure, um, and realized that I had a massive bleed going on in my basal ganglia, which is the very center of the brain, because I don't like to do things easy. And pardon me. And basically, I had been at home just trying to figure out where to go for brunch. It's a beautiful sunny day and like not very stressful because I was just trying to figure out how to where to go for brunch. You know, that's kind of a lovely problem to have. Um, but then all hell broke loose when I was doing a downward dog. I was doing some yoga on my balcony and I fell over. And my partner at the time came out and he said, "Are you okay? Or are you just being Shruti? Because I'm a bit of a dickhead sometimes, you know?" So, and then I told him I couldn't feel my left side. And luckily, my friends who were visiting at the time didn't listen to me when I said, "I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine." And they called an ambulance. Thank God they didn't listen to me because I just thought that, you know, you think nothing of it, right? So luckily they didn't listen and I was rushed to the hospital. And unfortunately, because my partner and I were not married, I had to wait for my parents to get down to the hospital to sign off on any consent forms and things like that. So, I mean, I don't think that that time took too long. My parents and my family are luckily in Toronto as well, but they couldn't, cut my head open right away. Basically, you had to wait a little while. So, but luckily they did cut my head open and were able to stop the bleed. And here I am today, alive and very grateful to be alive, which I think everyone here can relate to. And I think that that gratefulness and that positivity really just is such an imperative part to recovery. Just like having that positive outlook. I think everyone can kind of relate to that because either you've heard the whole 2 years and that's it BS that we all know that it is. Um, but like we're all very resilient and willing to fight and keep going. And I'm the queen of laziness. So um I'm not good at doing my homework, and I hate doing exercises. I was never the type of girl who went to the gym. I was the type of girl who ate a lot of burritos and Doritos. I still am. Um, but that being said, I research was my friend basically, and I just poured myself into understanding my brain and understanding what had happened to me and researching everything that was out there. Basically, anything I could read, I read because I had no idea, right? I woke up, came out of my coma in the middle of the pandemic with no family around, so no one to comfort me. And I just had doctors telling me, A, what had happened to me, and B, that we were in a pandemic and basically like living in an apocalypse. So it was pretty freaky, to say the least. Um, but like I said, I am naturally quite positive, which is really a blessing. I'm very, very lucky to be that way. I know that it doesn't come easy for a lot of people, which I completely understand. It's just I was born with a smile on my face, apparently. So I don't know if my mom will agree with that, but you know what I mean. Um, so yeah, so being really positive has been my best friend. But one of the things I really struggled with was purpose. When I was 3 years old, I realized I wanted to be an actor. And I told my parents, I think I saw my first Shakespeare at 3, and I said to my parents, I want to do that. And so that was my life. I was pursuing acting and art, and I thought to myself, without the movement in the left side of my body, who am I? I was a dancer for many, many years. And so I thought, if I can't move my left hand, well, how could I play a character? I mean, other than maybe Richard III. Um, I was just kind of like, I just didn't know how to picture life as a disabled person. And for a long time, I was in denial about it. I was just kind of like, no, no, I'm going to get 100% better, which has served me in some ways because of the positivity. But I will say that I really was in denial for a while. And it wasn't until I found a really good psychologist to work with who kind of just helped me shed that skin of denial and just kind of accept that this is Shruti 2.0. She looks different, but no worse. Just different, and that there's been a learning curve to that, to say the least. But I remember when I was in the hospital, I had amazing physiotherapists. One day I was having a really emotional day. I was sitting in the dining room in Toronto rehab, and I was eating my disgusting dinner, and I was listening to the Hamilton soundtrack. And if any of you know it, there's a song called It's Quiet Uptown. It's very sad. I won't tell you what happened and why it's sad because you should all listen to the soundtrack. It's really excellent. But I was sitting there just crying into my pierogies. And so my physiotherapist came up to me and she's like, "Girl, what's up?" And I was just like, "It's this song." And she was like, "Okay, but other than that," and I hadn't cried. That was the thing. I had spent months, just focused on the end game, being like, I'm gonna get better, I'm gonna get better. And I was feeling lonely and isolated in the hospital, and it all just came pouring out of my face holes. So it wasn't pleasant, but she was amazing. I had amazing physiotherapists. I had an amazing team at TRI, to be perfectly honest, because they were all, they understood that every single patient was there isolated without their family. And I had nurses who let me hold on to them when they were, I don't know if any of you had to use a Hoyer lift when you were being transferred from your bed a wheelchair. So whenever I'd be taken out of the Hoyer lift, my nurses, I would have to hold on to the nurse, but they would always let me hold on just a little longer to hug them because I needed that so badly, and I appreciated that more than I can tell you. It was everything, that physical contact was just that's all I needed. So they were wonderful, really wonderful people. And sorry, I've got a bit of a cold. Um, that spring cold situation. Um, but yeah. So sorry, where was I?
You were talking about your amazing team. Oh, the wheelchair.
Oh,
Hoyer lift hug.
the hugs. Oh my God. I'm on a couple of different support groups, and people are always just like, once you get everything back, what's the first thing you're going to do? And I always say, hug someone, anyone. I just want to be able to use. So, just so you know, I do have hemiparesis on my left side. I am able to walk now, for very fortunately, because of amazing physiotherapists, but my left arm is still paralyzed. So, I haven't been able to hug anyone properly in 6 years, and I'm a hugger. So that has been really hard, I will admit to that. Um, yeah. So, anyhow, what I really wanted to focus on today was um, purpose and what did we say? It was purpose and
Resilience, I think. Resilience.
resilience.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So, I mean, we all know, because we are all survivors, that stroke survivors are some of the most resilient people I have ever met. You know, just like we don't give up, and we've been handed a really shitty hand, and and we all know that we have it within us to defeat what we've been handed, and so I think you all know what it means to be resilient. Um, But with regards to purpose, like I said, was someone who knew what I wanted to do when I was 3 years old, which was really fortunate. But all of a sudden, I couldn't see that life anymore after the stroke. I was just like, I don't know how I can be an actor and an artist and a dancer with the left side of my body. Like it was just I could not see it. And then I realized I needed to find a purpose again. And I didn't know what that was. And I still kind of struggle with the whole why did I have the stroke? What is the greater meaning thing? But I 2 years after the stroke, I was told by a physiotherapist, because when I was in the hospital, I was very down. I asked my physiotherapist, when can I have a drink? Straight up, I just needed a drink so badly. So I asked her, and she said 2 years after the stroke. And so I said, okay, 2 years after the stroke, I'm having a party. Simple as that. So my sister threw a party for me, and I had a French 75, and it was delicious. And the following year, I didn't feel as anxious around the date anymore. And I realized that it was because I had celebrated, not celebrated, I don't want to, let me reframe that. I had clocked the day and acknowledged that the day had changed me and altered me forever. And it didn't have to be for the worst. So I had this great party with all of my friends, and they all brought presents. And when they brought presents, I thought, this is silly. I don't need anything. So I said, you know what? Let's do this next year again, but let's make it a fundraiser. You know, so I call it my Stroke of Genius Day, and every year on my anniversary, and I think every survivor can relate to this, I clock it somehow. And I don't celebrate it as such because I'm still fairly angry about it. Um, but I choose to reframe it as my Stroke of Genius Day. And so I turned it into a fundraiser called Stroke of Genius. And basically, every year I throw this massive fundraiser, and it's basically a massive pub quiz, because I thought, well, let's use our brains, this thing that's been damaged. And I love games because I'm a millennial and we like playing and not much else. So basically, I decided to throw this fundraiser, and I knew when I was in the hospital, because it was during COVID, I could see that the nurses and the therapists were all so overworked. And it killed me, because I was just like, this is so crazy that our system is so broken. I mean, we're so fortunate to live in Canada and to have our public healthcare system, but I'm not going to step on my soapbox tonight. I just think that our system needs help. So I thought, okay, well, what can I do? I am not science smart at all. I don't know how I got through high school. I somehow graduated by passing, I think I took grade 11 physics, of all things. And I must have passed it somehow, because I did graduate. But but yeah, so I decided to have this fundraiser. And like I said, I like games. So I thought a pub quiz kind of feel would be really fun and youthful, because my parents are very involved in the world of philanthropy and fundraising, and I've been to some of these events, and I'm sorry, but they're just boring. Straight up, they're just so bloody dull. And I was like, I don't want that. I want it to be fun and young and light, and I want people to get drunk and not feel like they have to be on their best behavior. That's what I wanted it to be me, messy and all. So I thought, okay, well, then let's make it me, you know? So that is what I did. And it gave me such a huge sense of purpose. And I will also say that I had amazing help in my sisters who could run the world. They are the smart ones of the family. I am definitely the black sheep. But I've embraced it. I'm the ideas girl. They are the doers. Um, and I just think that finding that purpose, and I don't know why I had the stroke, um, but I questioned that for so long. I played the why me card for so long. And I was just like, I can't do it anymore. Quite frankly, I'm bored of it. I'm bored of complaining and feeling this way. So I was like, no more. Let's just do something. So that's what I did. So boredom can be a really great tool, in my opinion. It can be a great motivator. And I started doing this event, and we do it every year now. And if anyone's in Toronto, you should absolutely come. I will send you the link. We don't have a date for next year yet, but it's a really fun time. And we've raised almost $250,000 so far, which is really exciting because basically what my goal was to raise $1 million, because I just said to myself, I don't want anyone to go through what I went through ever again. Because the thing is, I did everything quote unquote right. I was very healthy, had a very active lifestyle. I was a vegetarian, not a smoker, not a heavy drinker. Like, I would enjoy a tipple or two on occasion, but who doesn't? Um, I was not your typical risk. What's the word?
Candidate.
Candidate. Thank you. Um, and yet this happened. So I was just like, that's just not fair. Should I have just been doing cocaine this whole time? If this was going to happen anyway, you know? So that's where my head was at. Um, and So yeah, so finding a purpose again was enormous. And it's not easy to do, obviously, finding that purpose. But if you can find it, that is what I highly encourage people to do. Just even if it's eating, find that thing that you love to eat and perfect it. Even if it's cereal, like perfect your milk to cereal ratio. Um, so that's my story.
Yay! Thank you, Shruti. Like
Yes.
you're so it's so charming. Like you're just I'm like you're a comedian. Like you're so funny.
Yeah.
It's so special. Like you haven't lost your sense of humor, and it's just like it's so nice. It's so nice. Not that I knew you before the stroke, but like I just yeah, I feel like
No,
you're
I
just
know
having
they say
a sense
laughter
of
is the
humor.
best medicine.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Like if I can't laugh about the stroke, I would have been screwed.
Oh, yeah,
You know?
Mhm.
I agree. Yes,
Yeah.
I agree. Does anybody have a comment, a question, something you wanna that resonated that Shruti said? Um, any?
I have a comment. Thanks for so much for sharing that, Shruti. That was really great. And I think you made a wise choice going into acting. You're very performative based. That was a really descriptive, like the way you were describing your stroke, it really mirrored mine. It made me kind of relive a lot of those things.
Hmm.
And I was actually planning to go to brunch the same morning it happened. And I went to Toronto Western as well.
Oh
And
yeah.
a lot of the physiotherapists and nurses that you're talking about, I'm sure I've experienced them as well. I remember how great they were. So you kind of brought me back to that place. So
Good way, I hope.
sorry?
In a good way, I hope.
Yeah. It was in a
Mm.
good way. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I went to the same hospital and like stuff like that too. So I could really relate to the amount of help that we got from the people who worked there,
Mhm.
from all the people, from the nurses, doctors, you name it. Like everybody was helpful. Everybody was doing a great job, including myself, actually. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm the way I am now. So because they inspired me to keep going and keep like hitting the next target, so to speak.
Hmm.
So yeah, thank you.
Of course.
Yeah, I feel like a few of the things you said were perfect titles for a book. Mike mentioned how you're like the actress, kind of actor, performative person. I heard crying into my pierogies, and I thought, that's a book. That's your book.
Mhm.
It's
Or that's a
like,
song. That's a song
or a
title.
song. It's something, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I really like that part of it.
that's
That
great.
that was the only part I was going to take exception to because I think you said you called it your disgusting dinner, and I thought, oh, pierogies, that's not disgusting.
Good
I used to
point.
live in Bronxonsville, so I'm used to Polish Russian food, so
There you
Honestly, the pierogies were probably one of the better dinners.
okay, cool.
Mhm.
You're forgiven.
go.
Haas says in the comments, or in the chat, how do you motivate and have confidence?
Great question. Um, Motivation is an interesting one because I have a really hard time with motivation, always have, even in my youth. Um, I was recently diagnosed with ADHD, and that was really helpful just to be able to pinpoint what it was that I struggled with, and with motivation being one of those things because sometimes I just can't get myself to do anything. And my mother lives with me right now, and she, well, let's just say living with your mother in your 30s is a challenge, to say the least. But I think she really struggles with my lack of motivation sometimes. For example, like I find it really hard to actually do my exercises because I know that they'll help me, but I get very emotional when I can't do something because I'm a bit of a perfectionist. And so getting motivated to do that has been a struggle, I will say. My confidence, I was just very lucky to be born this way. I had a very supportive family growing up and always knew that I was incredibly loved. I have the most amazing friends that you could ever ask for. So I think that's where the confidence comes from.
Thanks.
Yeah. And I'm so cute.
Claudio has his hand raised.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm, Thank you, Shruti. Definitely helping a lot. Um, I want to kind of share something that was banging around my head. Um, Only you have the story that you can tell. I wish I could remember who said it. I'm stealing somebody else's idea, but I'm gonna go with it because I think that's why we're all here. Because Shruti went through an experience. I went through an experience. I went through an experience. Julie went through an experience. Jay went. We all did.
Hmm.
And all sharing all of our experiences, we all get stronger. We all feel better.
Mhm.
So I know there's some newer members here. I want to say thank you to them too, because you only you have the story that only you can tell,
100%.
and I can't tell your story, and you can't tell mine, but you can tell me yours, and that's what you do.
Hmm.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I found a lot of healing in sharing a story that maybe nobody connects with every single part of it, but there's something that there's a connective tissue that runs between us all. And
Hmm.
I find that like even your story, like I was like, oh yes, those like yes, there was a lot of things in that story that like just I was like, yep, me too, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Christine is saying, thanks for sharing. I also struggled with why me for a long time. The UHN team was incredible. Yeah. Yeah, the why me is,
I
go ahead.
thank you, Shruti. It it's not a simple thing to tell our stories, um, and I too struggle with why me, but kind of the flip side of that. Why did I get off so lightly? You know, why wasn't my stroke catastrophic? Why can I walk? Why do I
Cool.
have? Can I use my arms and legs? And there's no real answer that I've
No.
landed on other than cuz. And that really is I'm at Bloor and Dufferin, so I went to Western as well,
Uh,
and TRI and Toronto Rehab Institute, and um, I think that's a lot of why for me time it's timing.
100%.
Everything is timing, and um, yeah. I so thank you for that. And I mean, knowing that it's timing doesn't make the why me go away.
Mhm.
But thinking about that as the answer to the question rather than just cycling around with the question makes it a little bit easier for me.
Mhm.
Thank you.
I think you're right, Sandra, in that just kind of that cycle of the why me is it can be so debilitating. But then when you kind of find a way out of it or find another angle to it, it can really open up doors, I think.
I'd love to add on to that. And before I do, I just want to say everybody in this conversation tonight has been sharing so many valuable little nuggets. Even when we did our check-in, I just found it was such a variety of maybe it was the fact that we did colors and animals and stuff. Everybody just came with um like showing their true selves and what that reflection was for you today. So that was really beautiful. So thanks everyone. Um of course now I've forgotten what I was going to say, but anyways, I have lots going on in my brain about how a few parts of your talk resonated with me, Shruti, so thank you. I really liked how you chose while you were talking to reframe your like stroke anniversary to your stroke of genius day. I like you chose not to use the word celebration
Mhm.
and you reframed like I love that. I love it, love it. Like I think hopefully everyone here knows how big I am on narrative and the narrative swear words I talked about and yeah, I think that's great. Um I remember years ago it could have been like 7 years ago. I had shared that I don't celebrate it myself, or it's not like I was much younger, and it wasn't like it wasn't significant for me in the same way as it is maybe for a lot of adults. Um, at least that day itself.
Mhm.
And I was sharing this with somebody, and were also a survivor, and they were like got a little bit upset that I wasn't used. Like, you should celebrate it. Like, it's important. And I was like, oh crap, well maybe I should celebrate it. Like, geez, maybe this person's right, but it doesn't, and I was kind of like having this inner conflict. So thank you for kind of reminding me that everybody has their own way of acknowledging what happened to them.
100%.
And if whether it's sitting it or just kind of, clocking the day and remembering the moment, that's okay too. So thanks for sharing that.
If I could say that I have no, um, like I'm the one that doesn't have a choice, like because every time I wash my hair, I can feel the scar when they put my bone flap back on my head.
Mm.
So like I don't need anybody saying you should be grateful because I'm like every time I wash my hair, which is once a day, uh, I'm reminded of where I came from and what I had to go through to get to where I am. And it's just like a just this tiny little nudge, like don't forget, you know. And I'm not celebrating and having a huge party every time, but you know, that's just like a really, really simple thing that I can think of and be like, yeah, I'm lucky to be here. So
Hmm.
it's true. And I like the consensus that everybody basically feels the same way. Like we could have like, lost all of us. We could have been gone, like period. And
Yep.
of course that's not a happy thing to think of, but when you when you consider what we've been through and what we've worked up to and how we've persevered, it's a it's a really big issue. It's a really big thing. So I'm yeah, forever grateful that I'm still around. So
If for nothing else, I mean, to eat all the good food that there is in the world.
all right, come on.